So, I'm pretty sure most everyone in this classroom has heard of Five Nights at Freddy's by this point. Probably, mostly, definitely because of me. And I think it's safe to assume that it's definitely a pioneer in the video gaming industry in the modern age, single-handedly creating the mascot horror genre and spawning many games, such as Bendy, Poppy Playtime, Tattletale, Baldi's Basics, Lazy Cash Grab, Mr. Hobbs Playhouse. I could go on. Fnaf also created many people's careers as content creators who now rely on the stupid robot bear to pay their taxes. But how did Freddy Five Nights Fazbear take over the planet and become the juggernaut it is today, to the point where it made more money than the Mario movie on its opening day? What the hell? Well, let's go back and find out where this all started. Scott Cawthon's last game before Fnaf was called Chipper & Sons Lumber Company. A fun little tycoon game and platformer about chopping wood and stuff, pretty neat. But the game was heavily and honestly unfairly criticised for the characters looking like creepy Chuck E. Cheese style animatronics and Scott's insistence in using his outdated early 2000s bad CGI look. In other words, the game looked like it came out 10 years before it did, which is honestly not wrong, but that's besides the point. Anyway, with these two seeds planted in Scott Cawthon's head, he then had an idea. An awful idea. Scott Cawthon got a wonderful, awful idea. Taking advantage of his outdated bad CGI look of the past by putting you up against the past. These old, crusty, uncanny looking robots, Five Nights at Freddy's was born. And speaking of robots, the animatronics from the first game are perfectly designed in my opinion, and are definitely one of the main reasons Fnaf was such a huge success. Scott definitely pulled off making them not only incredibly recognizable, but also incredibly creepy and uncanny. All of them not only using up to 4 colors to keep it simple, but alongside that they all have one main color you can easily associate with the character. Freddy is brown, Bonnie's indigo, Chica's yellow, and Foxy's red. Alongside this, there's the fact that they don't hide the fact that they're robots and always look so lifeless and stiff on the cameras until they suddenly pull something like this. However, almost everything after Fnaf 1 never truly reaches the vibe that the original game had in uncanniness and creepiness. They're either not scary in the slightest or trying way too hard. But Springtrap from Fnaf 3 is definitely up there. I don't have time to go into detail, but just look at this. Come on. You gotta admit this is cool. Now, we all know this by this point, but Five Nights at Freddy's is essentially a nightmare scenario. Trapped in a cramped office with only 2 security doors and a low-tech camera system to keep you safe. Having to survive until 6 AM with all following games following the nightmare scenario formula. And I freaking love it. It works perfectly! Alongside the uncanny look of the animatronics, the vibe of the old decrepit pizzeria is done great. With it not only being dark and dingy with cobwebs and trash everywhere, there's also this weird paranormal goo staining the walls. Alongside this, all the rare Easter eggs and hallucinations that make you ask other people if they also saw similar stuff, sparking discussion throughout the community, definitely helped Fnaf grow to the size it is now. The endoskeleton in the backstage staring at the camera, Freddy Fazbear tearing his head off, newspaper clippings about disappearing children, and even his secret character Yellow Bear, or Golden Freddy for you simpletons, are absolutely amazing secret occurrences and definitely make you think about what's really going on. Now, if Fnaf was created by literally any other person, they most likely would have just milked the first game as much as possible before it's lost to the insatiable and ever-growing black hole of dead internet trends. But if you didn't know, Scott Cawthon is insane. This man had 4 games out in the span of 2 years! That's 2 full-length games with completely new models and renders and maps and designs and concepts in a year. Twice, in 2014 and 2015, and this crazy mass release of video games is most definitely one of the main reasons Fnaf was such a huge success. There was no waiting around for the next game to come out, it was just BAM 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 BAM! Now, considering Scott made Five Nights at Freddy's as one last attempt at game development, he didn't think the story and all that through that much when the first game released. Just a not too simple but not too complex plot about a murderer luring kids into a back room and stuffing them into robots after killing them. The children's spirits haunt the mascots wanting revenge as their corpses in the soup begin to rot. Years after the tragedy took place, it causes the restaurant to be set to close after struggling to stay in business and finding someone to buy them out. The fate of the missing children remaining unknown to the general public and the player. But then FNAF 2 happened. The Rapture! And it just kept on expanding and becoming more unnecessarily complex. Originally, the first game was supposed to be the finale, but then the third game was, then the fourth was supposed to be the end, then the sixth, then Ultimate Custom Night, and Scott can't decide when to end this franchise, can he? And because of this crazy person mass-releasing video games in an overly complicated story about murderers lurking around in furry suits and dead children, we're back to where we are now. With the series being 13 games and 1 DLC in, 3 book series, the Fazbear Fanverse initiative existing, and even a movie with a sequel being production, I rest my case.